All right, everybody, good evening. We got one more for now. One more for now. Again, I know that these are flying in fast, they're flying in furious, but that's what happens when you're rebooting your coaching staff. The hirings just start flying in. You're going to have a lot of guys that are really hard to say very much about because they're so obscure, because they haven't been presences in the NFL previously. That this is the nature of putting together a coaching staff. And this one is going to be really difficult to dive into. I did the best that I could. There is some stuff in his resume that can easily be referenced, but Zach Hill, the new, sounds like he's going to be a couple different things, but the main thing that I think he's going to be is an offensive quality control coach, which is something that we talked about quite a bit during the head coaching search. I was looking at a lot of coaches that had formerly been quality control coaches in this league or in college football, and also the assistant quarterback coach slash offensive assistant. So seems like a couple different roles he could occupy, but my vibe is that he'll end up being one of the quality control coaches for the offensive side of the ball. So Zach Hill, interesting thing with him is that last year he was coaching in high school football. He was the head coach. He was at the very least in charge there, but he has spent some time in high school football most recently. So Zach Hill, there's definitely a little bit of digging we got to do if we're going to find something that is actually relevant to us, because high school football is so far removed from NFL football. It's you really can't even draw some kind of comparison. Like last year, he was the head coach at Saguaro High School in Arizona. He led them to a 6A championship, but are we learning anything from that? Is that something that we look at and then we go, oh, this guy's good because he did that. He's going to be good for us because of that? Not necessarily. Year before that, he was also in a high school, American Leadership Academy, Gilbert North. And he did good there, I guess. I mean, it's not like he was bad at that role, but I can't look at that and go, okay, I know what this guy can do because of what he did at high school. So in order to find out anything kind of impactful about Zach Hill, and let me drag this over to the end here so we can christen him at the very end of the video, you got to go back to 2021, Arizona State. He was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for the Arizona State Sun Devils for 2 years, 2020 and 2021. So mainly we're going to focus on 2021 because that was actually the year where they played all the games. 2020, Arizona State played 4 games because of COVID. So we're mainly going to be focusing on 2021 here. Now, this was under Herm Edwards. It was a pretty okay Arizona State team. They won 8 games that year, lost their bowl game, but they won 8 regular season games. Their offense was about average. They averaged a little over 28 points a game, so decent job, I suppose. Nothing too exciting, but not bad either. However, the alarming thing that's going to pop up the moment you take a look at the roster is that Arizona State had Jayden Daniels at quarterback, and he wasn't very good. He did use his legs well. He ran for over 700 yards in 13 games. He was productive, but he wasn't any kind of a superstar yet. And we know what Jayden Daniels was able to do 2 years later. He won the Heisman. Now, obviously, he's not the same player that he was 2 years ago. He's developed a lot. He's changed a lot. He's a different kind of quarterback from 2 years ago. I'm not going to act like it's the same exact guy. But you look at Zach Hill as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach here, you would say he probably didn't get the best out of Jayden Daniels. And we've learned just how talented Jayden Daniels is. So that's not too great, right? You can kind of see why this guy had to take a step back maybe after what he did at Arizona State. Now, that's not to say everything was bad, right? This offense did have a very productive season from Rachaad White, who would go on to become an NFL player for Tampa Bay. Ricky Pearsall was here. He would eventually transfer to Florida and become a really good player. You also had Johnny Wilson. This was obviously before he was really much of a player. He would eventually transfer to Florida State and become a notable player there, and probably going to get drafted. But yeah, the level of talent he had doesn't seem like it's matching the production in 2021. Now, does it? Like, this was an average offense. Jayden Daniels, I'd say if you included the rushing stats, was playing at about an average level. And overall, I think you look at this and you go, he left some meat on the bone. So he gets sent to high school to try to relearn some stuff. And he has been, by all accounts, successful at the high school level. But now he's got to reprove himself starting at the quality control level of an NFL football team, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, of course. I think a lot of good coaches start as quality control coaches. Bobby Slowick started as a quality control coach under, I think it was Shanahan. I think John Gruden used to be a quality control coach for the Eagles. So it happens. But you can kind of see why he wasn't able to ascend from his job at Arizona State. You go to 2020, again, they only played 4 games. The offense was really good. They scored over 40 points a game, sure, but I don't know how meaningful that is. Jaden Daniels played 4 games, played pretty good. A lot of the same players. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince anybody that, oh, this is special. This is indicative of some special ability on his part because he got such great stuff out of the 2020 Sun Devils when it was such a small sample size. And remember, it was mostly the games they played early. So it would have been against the softer competition. And they still only went 2-2. Figure that one out when they have an elite offense and a really good defense. But such were the oddities of the COVID year. Now, before Arizona State, he did spend 3 years as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Boise State, the Broncos. And I'm happy to report things actually went a lot better. It was a lot better over this 3-year period. 2019, they were top 20 in points scored, almost 35 points a game. Really good team. MWC champs, 12 wins. They did get crushed by Washington in the Las Vegas Bowl, but they were probably outmatched in that one, let's be real here. And you take a look at the players he had to work with. He had to cycle between like 3 different quarterbacks throughout this season. Hank Bachmeier, Jalen Henderson, Chase Cord. So he didn't really have much to work with there. You're looking at the skill position players that he had. There isn't exactly a lot that would go on to NFL success, right? Ezra Cleveland would be about the only guy that would go on from this team to be an NFL player. I think maybe they had was it Natane Muti on the offensive line as well for a little bit. But there's not a lot here to get super excited about. And this was an offense that ended up putting up elite numbers on a really good team. Now, when you peel the onion back to 2018, another really good Boise State team, another team that finished in the top 20 in points scored, about 35 points a game, the quarterback was Brett Rypien. Brett Rypien was the primary quarterback on this Broncos team, and for as much as he is a limited player, we know this now because we've seen him play in the NFL, he played really well for Boise State, so they were able to get really good things out of him when Zach Hill was the quarterback coach. So I'd say his work there is indicative of something positive. I don't know how excited we are about it because it's Boise State and it's the MWC and it's Brett Rypien, but a lot of production from here. He had a great year, and Alexander Madison was the running back this year. Khalil Shakir was there as not a big-time player yet, but he was present on that roster. So they had some things going on this roster that would go on to NFL success. So I'm liking more of what I see here. And you go back to 2017, another really good season for Boise State. The offense was good, not as good, 36th in the country, but still good. Still a good team. Brett Rypien has another decent season. Not as good as he would be in 2018, but you can see the development, which is ultimately the most important thing. Madison was on this team as well. Cedric Wilson Jr. was really, really good on this team. So you can kind of see him making it work with these pieces and getting a lot out of them. So, yeah, I'd say this Boise State stuff is good. I look at this and I go, there's some reason to believe that Zach Hill is good at his job. There's more stuff we could peel into here. He was the co-offensive coordinator the previous year for Boise State. He was a 6-year passing game coordinator / quarterback coach for Eastern Washington. And then he has some high school stuff here. He was an assistant at Eastern Washington way back in the 00s. But I don't feel the need to go any further back than we just did. We got to some stuff that is actually good, some stuff that is encouraging. It's just, you can also see at the same time why he had to peel back to high school for a little bit. But there is definitely some good stuff with his results. and it seems like a reasonable hire to me. Again, it's low on the totem pole. Offensive quality control coach is low on the totem pole, so I'm going to go ahead and throw him up here. Assistant quarterback coach on this team, if he does end up occupying that role, because I did say that it looks like he's going to be doing two different things. He's also going to be that assistant QB coach, but you're under Charles London and you're under Ryan Grubb. So that means there's not a lot to do there. So I assume quality control is going to be his main job, and he can do that. Quality control is basically like scouting ahead, it seems like. It can vary from team to team. I'm not going to guarantee anything. Quality control could mean a few different things, but largely it's like scouting, preparing for the next opponents, trying to cultivate the beginnings of a game plan around what the other team does well and doesn't do well. So I would say that it's a fine hire. Again, when you're filling out this part of your coaching staff, you're not going to be getting guys that everybody in the world knows about. You're going to be getting some guys that are starting at the very bottom. You're going to get some guys who are starting out, trying to make a name for themselves. And again, I take a look at this and I go, there's a lot to be optimistic about. All right, so that was a long video on a guy like Zach Hill, of all people, but I really wanted to peel into the onion of his Boise State stint, because that was the stuff that was actually like, wait a minute, maybe this guy could actually be good. He wore a lot of responsibility at Boise State, offensive coordinator and QB coach. Worth giving some credit to him for that. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Probably already live on Twitch. If I'm not, I will be soon. So check me out over there. And thanks for watching. I know it's been a lot of videos today. There's been a lot to discuss. Probably some more coaches coming in the next few days, so it's not over by a long shot. But we'll continue to cover everything that needs to be covered. All right, catch you guys later.